Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Pokemon challenge. So there's a YouTuber by the name of JRose11, and he's actually the one who inspired me to start making challenge run videos on my channel. He does a lot of solo Pokemon runs, and his videos are really good. And after watching a lot of them, I started thinking about how this concept could be applied to XCOM, and hence my solo class run series was born. However, JRose has also done a series of videos where he tries to beat a Pokemon game with the absolute bare minimum number of battles possible. Basically skipping every non-mandatory battle in the game to see what is the theoretical lowest number that you can beat the game with. They're really interesting runs, and I'll leave a link in the description. Now JRose has done this for the older Pokemon games, and I figured since imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I thought I might give it a try for a modern Pokemon game and see how we go. Specifically, I'm going to play Pokemon Shield. And I've played Sword a couple of times, but I've never actually played Shield before attempting this run. So hopefully this one should be pretty interesting. Now the rules for today are as follows. We skip every battle that can be skipped in the game. We have set mode in battle, we don't want to make things too easy, and the only items we can use in battle are held items, with the exception of Pokédolls. Now before we proceed, we need to define exactly what a battle is. Now for our purposes, a battle is any encounter with another Pokemon where we don't immediately run away. So if we use a move on a Pokemon, that's a battle. If we use an item like a Pokeball, that's a battle. The only exception is using a Pokédoll. This is an item that guarantees you'll be able to run away from a wild Pokemon. They can be useful when the wild Pokemon is faster than yours, and that can prevent you from being able to escape when you try to run away. So we can use this item to flee from battles if we need to, but spoiler alert, this only occurred once in the whole run. So basically, to summarize, any encounter with another Pokemon where we don't just run away immediately, we are considering a battle. Now encountering a wild Pokemon is not a problem, we can do that as much as we like, as long as we run away as soon as the battle starts. So we will try to avoid wild Pokemon wherever we can just to save time, but if one does run into us, it's not a big deal, it just means we have to run away. And we're not going to count these towards our total number of battles. So with all the explanation out of the way, let's get on with the run. I've named my character Mini, as in minimum, and I wanted to name my rival Max for maximum. Get it? Because they're opposite? Yeah, never mind. Anyway, I couldn't do this because this is a modern day Pokemon game and basic features like being able to name your rival had to be removed because, just to hit us over the head with the fact that Hop is a straight rip-off of this guy, I guess? I don't know. Now the first big decision we have to make is which starter Pokemon are we going to choose? And while doing some playtesting for this run, I initially went with Scorbunny, but I later decided that was a mistake, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But for now, we're gonna go with Grookey. A nature that boosts his attack is preferable, which I actually get on the first attempt of choosing a Pokemon. Now he does have less defense, which isn't great, but I didn't want to reload and have to watch the whole cutscene again, so we're just gonna go with it. This Grookey should get us through. I hope. And here we can see Pokemon dialogue options in all their glory. Even if you turn down the request to battle, you can't actually progress in the game until you do battle. This is the illusion of choice at its absolute worst. This isn't even an illusion of choice. This is just making fun of us for the fact that we don't have a choice. So anytime this happens in the video and the dialogue suggests you may have a choice as to whether you want to fight or not, trust me that you actually have no choice. Every time this scenario came up, I tried to avoid battling, but the game just won't let you progress until you agree to the battle. So seeing as we're being held here against our will until we have this battle, this is going to be battle number 1. And it's pretty easy. Hop has a Wooloo, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, and this thing's here purely to let your starter level up after you beat it, because when you level up, you gain a super effective move that you can then use against his starter. Then we head to the Slumbering Weald to save a different Wooloo. Now here we actually come across this giant dog that kind of resembles a shield. And we actually have to fight it, so this is battle number 2. Now we're too weak to actually hurt this thing, and it doesn't attack us back because reasons, so it's questionable if this even counts as a battle, but we are using moves against it, even if the moves don't actually do any damage, so I am going to count this one. And with the Wooloo safe, I do the most important thing there is in the game: customize our character. Then the champion Leon shows us how to catch a wild Pokemon in case we don't already know. Now this one I'm not going to count as a battle because Leon is the one doing everything, not us. We're just watching, so we're not actually battling here. Then we can proceed to our third battle, which is this sinister looking child. Seriously, the way the camera zooms in on him is like something out of The Shining. And he's just standing there. This kid creeps me out. However, we're gonna have to deal with him because we cannot proceed down the path without him spotting us. Now it's really easy to beat him, this battle is pretty unremarkable, but I will say here that whenever this scenario happens in the future, that there's a trainer blocking the path and we have to battle them to be able to progress down the path, I'm gonna refer to them as a mandatory trainer. As in they're a mandatory battle that we're not able to just run around and skip. And there is a second mandatory trainer on this route, and he actually beats me because I forgot to heal after the sinister looking kid. Bug moves are super effective against our Grookey, so some of these low level bug users can actually pose a problem, which they did here. So I reload the game, but I haven't saved for ages, since before I customized the character. That means I gotta battle the sinister kid again, that means I gotta watch Leon catch a Pokemon again, that means I gotta customize the character again. This really sucks. And we do have to reload after a loss, otherwise it would add an extra battle to our total. We're trying to keep that number in the top left as small as possible. So this time with full health, the bug user is easy to beat, and then battle number 5 is a rematch against Hop. And get used to hearing me say that. We're going to battle Hop quite a bit in this run. Now he's still pretty easy at this stage despite having added a Rookidee to his party. Not much to say about this one. We head to the wild area next, but before we enter we can finally get some more Pokemon for our team. There's 2 NPCs in the train station who will give you a Pikachu and an Eevee if you have save file data of Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee respectively. I think they have better stats than usual for their species, but I could be wrong on that one. The trade-off is that we can't evolve either of them. They're going to be stuck in their first form for the whole game. Now some people may consider this cheating since we're relying on having a save file for different games, but I'm not bothered by that. Since the only way we can catch Pokemon is by battling, and we're avoiding all non-mandatory battles, we basically can't catch any wild Pokemon, so gift Pokemon like this are going to be crucial to the run's success. So I'm taking these 2, and I don't feel bad about it. And I did reload a few times for the Pikachu as I kept getting natures with lowered attack, which is not what I wanted. Eventually we got one that was pretty decent. And we can actually make it all the way through the wild area without a single battle. There's only wild Pokemon here who we can just run away from. And once we arrive at Motorstoke, I do the most important thing there is. Get a haircut. I make my uniform number 0 because it's the smallest number that I can choose, and then we head to the hotel. And here our number of battles jumps from 5 to 8. We have 3 Team Yell battles in a row, and you'll see here after Grookey beats the first grunt, Pikachu and Eevee also gain some XP. And this is huge for us in this run. See, in earlier games, XP sharing was much more limited. Most of the time, only the Pokemon who actually battled would receive XP. In later games, you would get the XP share item as a usable option quite early into the game, meaning that your whole team could be constantly leveling from every battle. And in Sword and Shield, not only do you get the XP share very early on, as in right away, it's actually forced on you. You cannot turn it off in this game. Now, XP is obviously a limited resource in this run, since we can't just go fight more battles if we become underleveled. So having our whole team receiving XP from every single battle is going to make this challenge run much easier in newer games than in the older ones. And you'll see here the final battle is a double battle. Now, double battles still only increase the battle count by 1. We're measuring the number of battles, not the number of trainers. On our way out of Motorstoke, Hop ambushes us for battle number 9. And I will note here that at the beginning of the run, I was increasing the battle count at the end of each battle. I realised this was a silly way to do it, and I will start to update it at the start of each battle pretty soon. So just hold tight on that one for me. Now here, I do use Pikachu, who is strong against Rookidee and Sobble, but we don't actually have any electric type attacks just yet. At least apart from Thunder Wave, which doesn't do any damage, so our Pikachu here isn't quite as useful as he could be, but we do still win the battle quite easily. The Rookidee's peck would have been really annoying for Grookey to deal with since it's super effective, so I'm glad we had our chunky Pika Boy to help us out. There's 3 mandatory trainers along the next path and cave, including this schoolgirl with a Pancham. This thing is really annoying. It knows Circle Throw, which forces you to swap Pokemon, and Eevee ends up going down because of this, but we do still win the battle pretty easily. Also, after we battle the trainer in the cave, Grookey evolves into Thwackey. Who comes up with these names? Now, silly name aside, this will give us some much needed extra power, just in time for battle number unlucky 13, which is against Bede. And there's not much strategy to this one, we just use Thwackey and hit Bede's team with as much brute strength as we can, and we're just hoping that they go down before we do. And that's exactly what happened, so I guess our non-plan worked out pretty well. And then we've arrived in the Turffield Gym. Now the gym challenge here is to round up a bunch of Wooloo so they can break through the barriers of hay, and then we can progress further into the gym. After we complete the second puzzle, there is a mandatory gym trainer battle here, and just like all the other battles recently, this guy's not too tough either. Now there are 2 more trainers in the gym, but we can actually avoid them. Now it adds an extra layer to the Wooloo puzzle, as we not only have to avoid the usual obstacles that would be in our path, but we also have to avoid the gym trainers too, so it's a little bit more annoying, but we can get around them. And that means that we've arrived at the first gym leader, Milo, and he's battle number 15. Now just to put this into perspective, in Pokemon Red and Blue, you could reach the first gym leader, Brock, as battle number 3. Yeah, there were only 2 mandatory battles before the first gym leader. Times they have certainly changed. Now, in exchange for that, Milo's Pokemon are at significantly higher levels than Brock's were. And this is the first battle where we're actually under-leveled for our opponent. So the strat here is to use Eevee to wear down the Gossifleur. Again, apologies if I'm butchering the pronunciation on that one. And Eevee can actually take this thing down despite being 6 levels lower. Our Eevee has really good special attack, and we picked up the TM for Swift from Sonia earlier. We also obtained the Silk Scarf in Motorstoke that powers up normal type moves. So our Eevee's doing really good damage. Now once the Gossifleur is gone, Milo immediately Dynamaxes his Eldergloss, and yeah, you can see the difference Dynamaxing makes. Not only is this thing massive now, its stats have gone up. So needless to say, Eevee doesn't last too long. Now it's not great having Pokemon faint, since once they've fainted, they won't receive any further XP in the battle. And again, given how limited XP is, we don't want to be missing out on it if we can avoid it. However, in some situations it is necessary, and this is one of them. We're not going to get through this guy's team without losing any Pokemon. We're just not strong enough. And Eldergloss is really bulky. Even our Dynamaxed Thwackey is doing very little damage to it. And despite us resisting grass-type attacks, since we're grass ourselves, the Eldergloss is still doing quite decent damage to us. And so we lose our first battle for quite some time. Now this was the third attempt at the battle, but the first serious attempt. The other times I was mostly just testing things out. So on the fourth attempt, the strat remains pretty much the same, but we've got one key difference. So Eevee takes out the Gossifleur just like last time, and then goes down to the Eldergloss, also just like last time. But this time around, instead of sending out Thwackey straight away, we send out Pikachu. Now, why do we want to do this? To use him as a meat shield, of course. See, Pokemon can only remain Dynamaxed for 3 turns, so using Eevee and Pikachu to tank hits means 2 out of the 3 turns the Eldergloss is Dynamaxed are not used on Thwackey. So unlike last time where Thwackey had to take 2 hits from the Dynamaxed opponent, now he only needs to take 1. And this is significant because Pokemon stats are higher when they're Dynamaxed, and on top of that, the Dynamax moves generally have a higher base attack than the Pokemon's regular moves. So in addition to only having to take a single Dynamax attack with Thwackey, it also means that we only have to attack back at the Dynamaxed opponent once instead of twice. And here the difference is tangible. We're both taking less damage and dealing more damage once that Eldergloss is back in its normal form. And this gives us the edge that we need to win the match. So it required a couple of sacrifices, but we did make it through. On the next route, we can pick up a Toxel from the daycare, giving us our 4th Pokemon. Now Toxel is quite bad, but its evolved form, Toxtricity, should be really helpful. Now again, I reset a few times here until we get a nature that I'm happy with. Toxtricity actually has 2 forms depending on its nature. Our Rash nature will give us the amped up form, which is what we want since it has a better signature move, at least for our purposes. Now there's a few more mandatory trainer battles on this route, including some Team Yell grunts. And we actually received the Rotom Bike in exchange for beating them, so now we can travel a little bit faster, which is nice. Then we have battle number 19, and it's another encounter with Hop. Thwackey is able to handle his Wooloo pretty easily, but his Rookidee has now evolved into a Corvisquire. Now thankfully Pikachu by this stage has actually learned an electric move, and that electric move is Electro Ball, which does more damage based on how much faster you are than the opponent. Now this combos really well with Pikachu's ability to paralyze, either via Thunder Wave or his static ability, so we can slow down enemies by paralyzing them, and then Electro Ball is going to do even bigger damage than usual. Now Hop's Sobble has also evolved into Drizzile by this stage, but it goes down very easily to Thwackey, so this Hop encounter was another easy one. Once we arrive in Hulbury, there's a couple of useful items we can pick up. We get the Magnet, which will power up electric type moves, so that's obviously going to be good for Pikachu. And we can also buy the Lax Incense from one of the merchants. This gives a chance for our opponent's Pokemon to miss with their attack if our Pokemon is holding this item. And the last item we want to grab is the Shell Bell, which restores health based on how much damage our attacker did to the opponent. And with that out of the way, we then meet up with Best Waifu Nessa to challenge her for our second gym badge. Now there are 3 trainers in Nessa's gym, and 2 of them are unavoidable, so that's going to increase our battle count by 2. But the third one, we can actually run past, but we have to get the timing right. It's a little bit tricky, and we have to run past her multiple times, making the experience even more nerve-wracking, but we do get past her, so we've avoided one battle there. Now when I used Scorbunny, Nessa was horrific. She took easily 10 attempts, if not more, and it would normally end with her Dreadnought just destroying us time and time again. However, on this run, we don't have Scorbunny, we have Thwackey, and he's 4 times super effective against Dreadnought. So with that in mind, you can probably guess that, yeah, this battle is a bit of a joke. The Arrokuda can be annoying with Aqua Jet. This lets it attack first even when we should outspeed. But Thwacky doesn't care about any of that, and he just hands out the beatdowns. I probably didn't even need to Dynamax in this battle, but whatever, I did. We'll flex because we can. And so this one actually ends up being a first try victory for our second badge in our 22nd battle. We then have to go talk to Chairman Rose, but I'm going to be honest here, I'm really not paying any attention to the story. I really wish you could just skip all the dialogue in these games, it would do so much for replayability. But anyway, once we're through that, we head into the very creatively named Galamine number 2 for battle number 23 against Bede. What is it with this guy and hanging out in caves? It's kind of creepy. Now, he's significantly tougher than last time. Now, I try starting with Toxel just to give him some extra XP. See, all your Pokemon gain XP from defeating an enemy, but they gain more if they actually participated in the battle. Now, Toxtricity is going to be an important part of the team, so I'd like to get him as soon as possible. However, you can see how badly this little guy sucks right now. We do barely any damage ourselves, and then we just get one shot. So yeah, it's time for a reload. He's not ready for battle just yet. It's better to keep him out of the battle and get some XP than have him get knocked out and get no XP. So on the second attempt we start with Thwacky, and he brutalizes the first few of Bede's Pokemon. Now he does take a fair bit of damage himself in the process, that's obviously not good. The Shell Bell is negating this somewhat, but not enough. And the real problem arises when the Galarian Ponyta emerges. This thing can outspeed our entire team. So I paralyze with Pikachu to slow it down, but we do get confused in the process. So then I swap out to Eevee to get rid of the confusion, and my plan was to just do as much damage with Eevee as we could before he got knocked out, then at which point I'd swap back into Pikachu, and we could deal big damage with Electro Ball. But it actually doesn't come to that. Eevee knocks out the Ponyta himself, so that works as well, I guess. Good work, Eevee. Now there's two more battles in the cave. One's a regular trainer, and one is a double battle with Hop against more Yell Grunts. Now neither of these battles are particularly notable, we win them both quite easily, and once they're done, we find this guy, and he actually reminds me a lot of Koga from Generation 1. They look like they could be brothers or something. Anyway, he returns to his gym in Motorstoke, and that's our next destination. But before we can battle the gym, we have battle number 26 with Marnie. I again start with Toxel for that XP bonus. He paralyzes the Krogunk, and then we bring out Pikachu to capitalize with Electro Ball. Now sadly Pikachu does go down, but enough damage has been done for Thwacky to finish off this poisonous froggy boy. Then Marnie sends out her Scraggy. In my Scorbunny run, I kept trying to paralyze it, but it has Shed Skin, so that strat doesn't work. Instead I send out Eevee to get off as many Tail Whips as we can. This is going to lower the Scraggy's defense, and then Thwacky can capitalize with his powerful physical attacks. Now unfortunately we can only use a single Tail Whip before Eevee goes down, but that's still enough, and Thwacky is able to finish this thing off. He does take some damage, but Marnie's down to her last Pokemon, so hopefully we can handle it. We lower the Morpeko's defense with Screech, but it is outspeeding us. That means it gets to attack first. So it can get off 2 bites, and we're down to a mere 5 HP. So hopefully we can one-shot with Razor Leaf, otherwise we're going to be in big trouble, and yes we can. That was really close. If Thwacky had fainted, we were losing that battle, no questions asked. But we didn't. We win. Good for us. And now for the third gym. And this is what caused me to choose Grookey over Scorbunny. See, there's a pretty cool gimmick in Kabu's gym. You need to earn 5 points by battling wild Pokemon. Now, knocking the Pokemon out nets 1 point, while capturing it gives you 2 points. So to progress the story, we have to battle these wild Pokemon. These are different from normal wild encounters that we can normally skip. These ones we have to do. Even though they're wild encounters, they're mandatory to complete the game. And for our purposes, In terms of counting battles, there's no difference between knocking out a wild Pokemon or catching it. It still only counts as one battle. And in fact, if we catch at least 2 of the Pokemon, we'll get enough points to challenge Kabu with a mere 3 battles. If we were to knock out these wild Pokemon, we'd have to engage in 5 battles. So to stick to as few battles as possible, we actually need to catch some of these things. And because this is the fire gym, all the wild Pokemon that we can catch are fire types. So I figured in the name of good type coverage, it made sense to take Grookey over Scorbunny. Grookey is the only grass Pokemon that we can get while sticking to minimum battles, at least I think he is. Meanwhile, we have 3 perfectly good fire Pokemon we can get our hands on right here. So this is why I think Grookey is the best starter to go with. And in terms of these Pokemon we can catch, we've got 3 options, but the main one we want is Sizzlipede. And not just any Sizzlipede. We're going to reset the game until we get one with the Flash Fire ability. Now this is an obnoxious process, and it takes quite a while. Part of the problem is the other trainer you're battling alongside you will sabotage you while you're trying to catch this thing. Like, it will use moves against you. Now of course you're not able to target the trainer back to get revenge, but eventually we score a Sizzlipede with Flash Fire. It does take a few reloads, but we get there in the end, so that's really good. Now the nature we have for it is pretty bad. A boost to special attack and a debuff to special defense. Now I wasn't really worried, as I was really only planning on using Sizzlipede for this next gym leader, and then I thought I wouldn't use her again. And spoiler alert, I ended up being wrong about that one. Now, if I were to redo this run, I'd take the time to get a better nature on our Firebug girl. Probably something that increased speed would be good, or maybe attack. But not to worry, we'll make do with what we've got. Now, there's also a Litwig and a Vulpix in the gym. The Litwig I wanted the Flame Body ability on, but it's not a huge deal either way. And the Vulpix I'm not worried about at all. I'm not planning on actually using it, but I figured I'd still catch it just in case. The number of battles is the same whether we catch this thing or not, so we might as well get it and give ourselves more options rather than less. And plus, I like Vulpix, it's one of my favourite Pokemon. So once we've caught our 3 Pokemon, we have 6 points and we can challenge the gym leader Kabu. And here is why the Sizzlipede having Flash Fire is so clutch. Kabu starts with Ninetales, and its only non-fire move is Quick Attack. Now, if it uses a fire move on us, not only do we not take any damage thanks to Flash Fire, but it actually boosts the power of our fire type attacks. So the only way this Ninetales can hurt us is with Quick Attack, and that is quite a weak move. It's not going to do a lot of damage. And it becomes even weaker as each turn that passes. And the reason for this is because we're using Coil. Now, Coil is an amazing move. It boosts our attack, our defense, and our accuracy. And so basically what we're going to do here is use Coil to max out our attack and defense, and then we can unleash on Kabu's entire team. With that maxed out attack, we're going to be doing big damage, while we'll take very little damage in return from any of Kabu's physical attacks. And you can see here the Ninetales goes down quite easily. Now the Arcanine does lower our attack with its Intimidate ability, but that's not a big deal. We're still at +5 attack overall thanks to all of those coils that we spammed. However, here we do get some terrible RNG and we flinch from Bite twice in a row. That's a 9 out of 100 chance of occurring, just for the record. But despite that, you can see how little damage that we're taking, and we're getting some HP back from the Shell Bell. So once the Arcanine's done, Kabu then has a Center Scorch, which is Sizzlipede's evolved version. And while he should be stronger than us since his Pokemon has evolved, he doesn't have the benefits from Coil, so he's doing almost no damage to us, and little Sizzlipede ends up sweeping Kabu's whole team. Now in the Scorbunny run, I did try this strat with a Sizzlipede that didn't have Flash Fire, and it doesn't really work. Because Sizzlipede is part bug, she actually takes neutral damage from fire moves, so the Ninetales can just do way too much damage before you've set up your coils, and you end up getting knocked out. So Flash Fire is definitely the way to go. And with that perhaps unorthodox strategy, battle number 30 is done, and that's another first try victory on a gym leader. So then we have to return to the wild area, and here I make sure to pick up the leftovers that can be found near the southeast area of the map. They're basically just a better Shell Bell. They restore HP every turn, regardless of if you've done any damage or not. And I could have grabbed these things sooner to make some of the other battles even easier, but I didn't actually realise they were there until I just stumbled across them while exploring. And part of that exploration is also interacting with the wells that aren't housing raid dens. Now, we can't do any raid dens since they're counted as battles and they're not necessary for story progression, but the empty wells that don't have battles, they're actually still worth our time. Just going up and interacting with them will give us a small amount of watts. And this is going to be our best way of gathering watts to buy technical records. Normally the easiest way to get watts is by raid battles, but with those off the table, we can just check out these empty wells. Now once we arrive in Hammerlock, we have a massive amount of story content, and it's honestly pretty boring. But once that's all done, we can then head out to Route 6. And there's a few mandatory trainers here, including this woman with a Clefairy and a Clefable. And I have to say, this lady may be my most detested NPC in the whole game. She's so annoying. I mean, just watch this battle. I'm using Litwick to get some XP. It's a ghost type, and our next gym is ghost type. Now Ghost is actually super effective against Ghost, so I'm thinking maybe this little guy could be helpful. Giving him an extra level or two might be a good idea. So we try for a fire spin. Now this is an 85% accurate move in this game, and we miss. Now this is the second attempt of this battle. In the first attempt, this Clefairy used Inferno, which is a 50% accurate move, and that hit us. Because of course it did. So seems pretty fair there. And then here, the Clefairy uses Forest Curse, which makes Litwick purely a ghost type. Now this isn't a big deal, it just removes our fire typing. And it's actually good because the Clefairy then busts out Hydro Cannon. Now Hydro Cannon is a 90% accurate move, and the Clefairy hits us. So at least it's not super effective because we lost the fire typing, but it's still annoying that no matter the accuracy of this thing's attack, it hits us every time. Now we do take it down, so that's good, but then we have a Clefable to deal with. And here, we miss 2 fire spins in a row, and meanwhile, the Clefable hits with its 90% skitter smack. And here, I was just so frustrated. Kabu can get a 9% chance for 2 flinches in a row, but we're batting 1 out of 4 on a supposedly 85% accurate attack in this battle. And this is why I don't really like playing Nuzlockes. RNG in Pokemon is just way too annoying, and you can easily lose a good Pokemon in a Nuzlocke, or even an entire battle, and have the run ended just because the RNG decided that it wanted to ruin your day. And I probably wouldn't have been as annoyed by this NPC if she wasn't the very next trainer after that Kabu battle. Just the fact he got such good luck and we're getting such terrible luck, this was really obnoxious and it really annoyed me. So it literally takes about half a dozen attempts, but we finally are able to beat this demonic woman and her wretched Clefairies. I mean, this woman has been more difficult than the gym leaders. But whatever, it's done. Let's move on and never speak of her again. Now, as horrible as Route 6 is, there is actually some good news here. We can talk to this fossil lady and get the next member of our team. And I got quite lucky as I wanted a Dracovish, and I just happened to find the 2 fossils I needed to make that particular Pokemon. Now one of them is guaranteed in the Pokemon Center in Shield version, but the other one I just picked up off the ground. Now I'm not sure if that's a guaranteed drop or not, maybe I just got lucky. But see, the thing is, I didn't even plan this when I decided to play Shield. I had no idea about the fossils, and I only picked Shield because I didn't want to have to reset my Sword version save. I've done a fair bit of competitive breeding in that game, and I've acquired a lot of late game items, and I didn't want to lose all that stuff. So that's why I played Shield, which I didn't have a previous save on. So it just ended up being good fortune. But the question is, why do I want Dracovish? And I have no idea if I'm pronouncing this thing's name correctly, but whatever. Now, it's certainly not the aesthetic design. The fossils in this game, I think, are hands down the worst and laziest design of any Pokemon in history. Like even Voltorb, that's just a ball with a face. I would take that over this. These things are literally just two random creatures slapped together. They look awful. But enough of that. Dracovish is a water dragon typing, which is always really good. Plus, we don't have access to any other water Pokemon. So that's the main reason I wanted him. So I replace Eevee with this monstrosity, and I'm hoping that it proves useful. Now I think Arctovish could have been a useful choice too, but Dracovish has better base speed. So given this thing is joining us at level 10 at a reasonably late point in the game, it's probably going to end up under-leveled for the rest of our journey. So if we can outspeed at a lower level, that should be helpful for us. And then we have battle number 35, which is Hop, and this is definitely the toughest he's been to date. And when I say the toughest he's been to date, I mean it takes 2 attempts to beat him instead of 1. And that's mainly because I expected him to start with his Wooloo, but he actually sends out a Cramorant first instead. So I decided to start with Toxel. I really want him to evolve before the 5th gym, and Toxel actually does decent damage with his electric attack. I think it's doing 4 times damage due to Cramorant being water and flying types. But once the Cramorant goes for dive in the middle of a desert, figure that one out, I swap Toxel out. I don't think he'll survive an attack that powerful. So the Cramorant resurfaces from the dirt, and it randomly has a Pikachu in its mouth. Now, why would a Pikachu be under the dirt? I don't understand this thing's gimmick at all. It seems kinda silly. But you know what else is silly? When we knock this thing out, it still gets to attack. It spits the Pikachu at us and does damage, plus it causes paralysis. This thing is more obnoxious than the Clefairy lady. Well, no, that's not true, but it's still pretty obnoxious. So whatever. Hop has his own Toxel out next, and I decide this is a good Pokemon to set up some coils with Sizzlipede. Now we do get paralyzed while setting up, but I'm hoping that we'll be bulky enough to handle it. Now the Toxel does lower our attack a few times, but that's not a big deal. We can just keep using Coil as much as we need to. I mean, at this point the Toxel is doing less damage to us than what we're recovering every turn from our leftovers, so we can literally do this until our PP runs out. However, Hop eventually realizes he can use Acid on me, and that's also a special move, so it bypasses our maxed out physical defense from Coil, and it does a lot more damage. So I kind of figure now's a good time to take this thing out, and then he sends out his starter, which we actually one-shot. Before we do that, it does hit us for decent damage though, and then his final Pokemon is Silly Cobra, but I think it only has physical moves, so it can't really do anything to us. Our defense is just way too high. And the best part is that after this battle, Sizzlipede evolves in a Centiskorch. That's going to give us a nice power boost. Very nice. In the gym, we have the Pinball Challenge. I always like playing this, it's pretty fun. But between each section, there's a mandatory gym trainer. So that's another 3 battles added to the total, and that makes Alistair battle number 39. Now we start off with Thwackey, since Alistair's first Pokemon is part ground, and we take it out quite easily. Then once the Mimikyu, I get it, I think. But anyway, we lower this thing's defense with some screeches before Thwackey goes down. I then send out Litwick and Pikachu, not expecting this thing to be as fast as it is. It keeps outspeeding and one-shotting all of our Pokemon. Now thankfully Pikachu's static paralyzes it as he goes down, so we can send out Centiskorch. We destroy the Mimikyu now that it's slowed down, and then we start using Coil, only to get one-shot by Ancient Power from the next Pokemon. So that wasn't great, let's try again. So I'm kind of realizing now that Thwackey isn't going to be able to get us through this, so I decide on a different strat. let's try setting up some coils against Yamask. And it's here I realised just how awesome Sizzlipede, or Centiskorch now rather, was going to be for the rest of the run. The Yamask uses Disable, so we can only get off 3 coils. I would have liked more, but we'll work with this. So now we might as well just attack, and we actually one-shot with a super effective bite. Then the Cursola is back, and we actually one-shot that thing too. Our attack is just way too high, even with only 3 coils. So this is going quite well. Now the Mimikyu has an ability that means it can never be one-shot, so it takes a few attacks to knock out, but we don't take very much damage ourselves. And then Alistair sends out the Gengar, the Gigantamaxing Gengar no less. Now I was worried about this thing, I really was, and I'm just thinking we'll do as much damage as we can before the Gengar takes Centiskorch out. However, things don't go to plan, and instead we just one-shot the Gengar and we win. Yeah, Centiskorch just swept this guy's entire team, and in doing so, I realised that Centiskorch is going to be the star of the show for the remainder of the run. The coil strategy is just really good. As long as we've got a decent Pokemon we can set up against, I don't think anything's going to be able to beat this thing. And this does take me back to the nature that our Centiskorch has. Having lowered special defense does leave us extra vulnerable to special attacks while we're setting up coil, so it's not great, but we'll do our best to work around it. And even better, after this battle, Toxel finally evolves into Toxtricity. I wanted him just in time for the 5th gym, and that's where we're heading now, so this is really good timing. Before that though, Bede is vandalising public property, so we need to teach him a lesson. And let's try that coil strat one more time, shall we? Yeah, coil strat is best strat, it seems. So Bede gets kicked out of the gym challenge, and then we head on to this really creepy looking place. Now there's actually no mandatory battles here until we're in the next gym, and this is the fairy type gym. That's the reason I wanted Toxtricity. Having a strong poison type Pokemon should help us a lot in this one. As usual, there's 3 gym trainers we have to fight. That makes the leader herself battle number 44. And the gimmick in this one is that you get asked questions during the battles, and if you answer the questions correctly, or so the game claims, your Pokemon gets a buff. If you answer incorrectly, or if you hurt the old lady's feelings, your Pokemon receives a debuff. So Opal, the gym leader, starts off with Wheezing, and because that's part poison type, I decide to start off with Pikachu. I'll save Toxtricity for later when we actually have the type advantage. Now Thwackey is weak to poison, which is why I didn't start with him, and I thought bug types were weak to poison as well, which is why I didn't use Centiskorch, but apparently bug isn't weak to poison. Now personally, I think they should be. I mean, poison is what you normally use to kill bugs, right? You go and buy poison from the grocery store and then you spray the spider when you see it. Well, I live in Australia, so maybe this topic is hitting too close to home for me. Let's move on. Now, I get the first question wrong. Apparently, this lady is nicknamed the Wizard, which I wouldn't have guessed. I mean, obviously, I didn't guess it. And I don't think the game gives you any indication of this lady's nickname, or maybe it does and I just missed it. But anyway, because we got the question wrong, Pikachu's speed has been significantly lowered from the debuff, and so Electro Ball is not doing very much damage, even with the Weezing paralyzed. So Pikachu goes down, and I decide we'll bring in Centiskorch. Let's set up some coils. Now, Acid isn't actually doing as much damage to me as I expected, so that's good. However, things go south when we get poisoned. Now, we can take out the Weezing, but the poison is just taking way too much of our health, even with the leftovers restoring HP every turn. So here I decided to reload. I don't think we're going to get through this battle without Centiskorch, so I don't think it's worth pursuing. So on the second attempt, I get the question correct, and that means Pikachu gets a speed increase, and you can see the difference that Electro Ball does now. It is doing a monstrous amount of damage. And like I said earlier, the attack power of this move goes up the faster that we are relative to our opponent. So between Weezing being paralyzed and our already pretty good speed getting boosted from the question, we are laying the smackdown here. And our little lightning boy actually defeats the Weezing. And here Opal sends out Moile. Again, I'm really bad with these names, I'm really sorry. But she sends this thing out instead of Togekiss. Now, the order most important trainers send out their Pokemon in actually depends on your Pokemon. They'll usually try to get the type advantage while also keeping their best Pokemon for last. Now, this is actually perfect since Moile is the best opponent to set up coils against. Most, if not all, of its attacks are physical, and this means Coil will reduce the damage we take, so this is actually a really good position for our Centiskorch to be in. And look at this, while we're setting up coils, this woman right here asks us how old we think she is. And if you want to get a buff instead of a debuff, you have to give the answer of 16. Yeah, okay lady, 16. Whatever you say. It's time to put her down, Centiskorch. So Moile's a one-shot, and then the Togekiss is out, and it does outspeed us, and it inflicts decent damage with Air Slash. I'm pretty sure that's a special move. And on top of that, it even survives our attack, if only barely. Now it hits us with an Ancient Power, which is basically the worst move our little bug can take. It's 4 times super effective, and it's a special move, so our increased physical defense from Coil will not protect us. However, thankfully one of the buffs we got from the questions earlier increased our special defense, and we actually survive and were able to take the Togekiss down. That is awesome. And then the final Pokemon, Alcremie, is here. I'm expecting Centiskorch to go down with one more hit. We are nearly out of HP, so I don't even bother Dynamaxing. I'll save that for a Pokemon with full HP. So the Alcremie hits us, and we survive. So we hit back again, the Alcremie hangs on, it attacks us again, and we survive again. This time on a single point of HP. And then we take the oversized cake down. So once again, Centiskorch is making these gym leaders look like a joke, even though they have the level advantage on us. 1 HP. This was insane. And we didn't even end up using Toxtricity. So Opal then offers to take us back to Hammerlock, and that's our next destination. I really don't want to spend any more time with her, but accompanying her means we get to warp straight there rather than having to travel ourselves. So let's do it. And when we arrive, she basically kidnaps Bede. I guess that'll teach you not to deface historical landmarks. On our way out of Hammerlock, we have another hop encounter as battle number 45. Now I try the coil strat here, but it doesn't really work. We spend ages setting up against this haunted tree, and we are able to defeat it with a decent amount of health remaining, But then the problem is Hop's starter has now evolved into an Inteleon, and that thing can easily one-shot us with its signature move. So setting up against the Trevenant is a waste of time. So I reload, and I still decide to start the battle with Centiskorch, but this time we don't set up any coils and we just attack. Now Hop does heal the Trevenant, but we're still able to finish it off, and then we swap out to Thwackey to beat the Inteleon. I keep Thwackey in against Heatmor despite having a type disadvantage. We just want to inflict as much damage as we can before Thwackey goes down. And when he does, now is the time to bring back Centiskorch and start setting up those coils. The Heatmor's fire attacks are useless against us because of our ability, and its remaining attacks do less and less damage with each coil we get off. They're all physical. So once we're done with all our coils, Centiskorch can just sweep through the rest of Hop's team. Even the Snorlax can barely hurt us. So the last 2 Hop battles have taken 2 attempts each instead of 1. So I guess he is improving, good for him. And look at this, our Thwackey has evolved into Rillaboom. Now I'm not a huge fan of the design of this Pokemon, but he learns his signature move, and that's going to inflict significantly more damage than Razor Leaf. So I'm pretty happy about this one. There's 2 more mandatory trainers on the way to Circhester, but they don't cause any problems for us. And once we arrive in the town, there's only one thing to do. Put on a jacket. Yeah, it's pretty cold in this place. Now, in the gym, we have this floor crumbles under you and sends you falling to your doom puzzle. Now, in this first area, I actually break all the destructible pieces of floor. I was looking to see if there's a way to avoid the trainer on the platform, but there's not, so we have to battle him, and that's number 48. In the second area, however, we can actually avoid both of the trainers there. The male gym trainer will turn his head, so as long as we time things right, we can get by him and make it to area number 3. And area number 3 sucks. The fog is added, I guess to make navigating the destructible floor more difficult, but it adds a huge challenge for us in that I can barely see where the gym trainers are, so that's going to make avoiding them much more difficult. And there actually is a trainer hiding in the fog. Now, like the last guy, he does turn his head and it is possible to avoid him, but it's really difficult to tell which way he's facing because of the fog, so waiting for the right moment to run past him is tough, and it takes a couple of reloads, but it is possible to do, and we do get by him, and then there's no more trainers until the gym leader herself. Now, Melanie is an ice type user. Given our strongest Pokemon is a fire type, you can probably guess how this one is going to go. Now in Sword version, this gym leader uses rock Pokemon, which Centiskorch would be 4 times weak to, so once again, Shield version is coming through for us. I'm really glad I decided to play on this version of the game. So like normal, we set up some coils against our first Pokemon Frostmoth, but then it starts using Feather Dance, which will lower our attack faster than we can raise it. So I decide we're better off just putting this thing away with a 4 times super effective Flame Wheel. Yeah, this thing is Ice and Bug, so not a good combination for it. So then our next Pokemon's out, which is a Darmanium. Hopefully I'm getting the name right. And we set up finishing our coils against this thing. Now, because it outspeeds us, we do get some more flinching shenanigans, which is frustrating, but eventually we're able to demolish this weird looking thing. And then the Frozen Penguin. Now this thing is interesting. Its Ice Face ability prevents damage on its first turn. So we hit it and we don't do any damage, but then it summons a hailstorm and the ice cube on its head returns. Now for a moment I got really nervous here. I was thinking that that ice cube was just going to regenerate every turn and we'd be unable to damage this Pokemon, but it turns out it only regenerates the ice cube when a hailstorm starts. So after one more attack it's finally vulnerable. However, before we can capitalize, it freezes us. Now thankfully, by using Flame Wheel, we can unfreeze straight away, and we can take this annoying thing out. That was pretty good strategy from the AI though, I have to admit. Now Centiskorch has been left on very low HP, which is obviously not good, not to mention Melanie's next Pokemon Lapras has some really powerful special moves, so I'm thinking our Ladybug probably isn't going to last much longer. But even as she does go down, it's okay. She took 3/4 of Melanie's team out single-handedly, so that's a really good effort. So we Dynamax Toxtricity and we unleash with our electric power. Yeah, Toxtricity is part poison, part electric. Now Lapras is a bulky Pokemon and it survives and our Toxtricity actually goes down. However, we've stalled out the opponent's Dynamax and it doesn't have much health left. So Rillaboom is able to finish it off. And battle number 49 is another first try victory. And then for battle number 50, we have another hop encounter. This guy just will not leave us alone. And he's back to starting with his Wooloo, or it's actually a Double now, it's evolved. And that works for us, since it's a good Pokemon for Centiskorch to set up against. But after we wipe Double out, the same thing happens as last time. Inteleon arrives, one-shots us, and Centiskorch is gone. We had a lot more health this time, so I thought we might survive the snipe shot, but we didn't. So we'll reload, and this time we'll start with Rillaboom, who I've taught Brick Break. It's a good move, it's a fighting type, and it does decent damage, so it's going to be super effective against Double. We can take it out quite easily. Now Hop sends out Corviknight. We can use Toxtricity to take care of that thing. Then Snorlax and Rillaboom face off. The Snorlax actually defeats us, so I bring out Centiskorch. The Snorlax took a lot of damage at the hands of Rillaboom, so Centiskorch can take it out. But of course, then we have the Inteleon to deal with once again. I swap into Pikachu so that he can get one shot instead of Centiskorch. Pikachu doesn't need the XP as much. However, Inteleon doesn't attack and goes for Tearful Look instead. I mean, it's still an attack, but it doesn't do any damage. I'm not sure why it did this, but maybe we have a chance to do some damage to it. No, never mind. Inteleon outspeeds and one-shots on the next turn. This thing is really dangerous. I send out Toxtricity, hoping he may be able to outspeed. Now he doesn't, but thanks to his lax incense, Inteleon misses with its attack. Now Inteleon is a real glass cannon, so we're then able to one-shot it. So the lax incense may have just won us the battle. I'm not sure if Toxtricity would have been able to survive that attack or not, but who cares? Hop's ace is defeated. So he sends out this weird looking thing as his final Pokemon. I use an electric attack, which does nothing at all since this thing's ability makes it immune to electric type moves. And on top of that, we just boosted its special attack stat as well, so big brain play from your boy Drifter on display here. So we decide to use Venoshock instead, and that does decent damage, but then Toxtricity does fall. Luckily, Centiskorch is still up to battle, and she eliminates the Pincurchin. Then we have another battle against some Team Yell Grunts to obtain the upgraded bike, which will allow us to go over water. And this is another easy battle, so no big deal there. And then we can get through this whole route without any battles, and the next one is Marnie outside of Spikemuth. Her first Pokemon uses Torment on Centiskorch. That means we cannot use the same move 2 turns in a row. That obviously limits our ability to set up coils. So instead we just attack and take the kitty cat down. Marnie's Toxicroak is out next. It uses Swagger, which boosts our attack, but it also confuses us. So we're relying on good luck. I'm not expecting any good luck, but we do actually get it, and we're able to one-shot the Toxicroak with the attack boost that it gave to us. That's pretty sad. Marnie's Scrafty is out next, and as the battle progresses, our confusion luck eventually runs out, and we start attacking ourselves. That's bound to happen after enough turns pass. So we hit ourselves in confusion, and we're doing big damage because of all our attack buffs. Now thankfully Centiskorch does drop the confusion just in time to finish off Scrafty, but we don't have a lot of HP left, and even worse, Scrafty lowered our speed so Morpeko gets to attack first. And here Centiskorch goes down, but Toxtricity is ready to save the day. We land a Toxic since that doubles the damage Venoshock deals, and this knockoff Pikachu goes down emphatically. So not too bad there, but now our battle counter is going to jump by 5 as we have to deal with an onslaught of Team Yell Grunts. They're all super easy to beat, but goodness me are they annoying. And I love the way Marnie tells them to stop bothering people after we've defeated every single one of them and made our way through the entire city. Like, she couldn't have gone in front of us and told them to leave us alone before we got there. Thanks a lot, Marnie. Really appreciate that. So battle number 58 is Piers. And Piers actually takes a few attempts, but it's really because I was just being silly. See, he starts with Scrafty, which has Intimidate, so I begin the battle with Pikachu since we're mostly using him as a special attacker. Now his job is really just to tank the attack debuff from Intimidate, but if we can get off a Thunder Wave and maybe inflict some damage, that's a bonus. And see, the reason I was being a fool is that Scrafty has Sand Attack. I didn't want to set up coils against our Scrafty only to have her miss because all the sand attacks got in the way. But what I had forgotten is that coil actually increases our accuracy as well, so sand attacks really aren't going to bother us. Coil really is an awesome move. So we make it through the first two of Piers' Pokemon, but then comes out the Obstagoon. And we're really low on health. I'm hoping we can outspeed, but no luck. Centiskorch is just too slow. If I were to redo this challenge, I'd probably try for a Centiskorch with a nature that gives it a speed buff. But it's okay, the point is irrelevant since we actually survive with a smidgen of HP. That attack did basically nothing to us. So see you later, Obstagoon. Now Skuntank is last and it does take us out, but just like the last gym, Centiskorch has eliminated enough opponents that the rest of the team can easily close this one out. Well actually, it wasn't that easy. I think we only won because of another clutch miss thanks to the Lax Incense, but it's cool, a win is a win, I'm gonna take it. We have 3 double battles with gym trainers at Raihan's gym. I do restart a couple of them. The main thing is just starting the battle with Pokemon that are good counters to whatever the opponent is using. And we could win these battles without restarting, but we would have 1 or 2 of our Pokemon getting knocked out. So I'd rather avoid that if we can, so that the whole team is gaining as much XP as possible. So these guys are a bit annoying, but that's about it. They're not very difficult. And then it's time for Raihan himself as battle number 62. And even though Raihan is supposedly a dragon trainer, he uses a couple of Pokemon that aren't dragon type at all. So I guess he's ripping off Lance there. Now this attempt you're watching is the second. Dracovish can't one-shot Flygon despite his Ice Fang being 4 times super effective. So this time on the second attempt, I lower its defense with Screech from Rillaboom, and that allows Ice Fang to then do the job and take this thing down. Now meanwhile, Raihan's Gigalith only goes for Stealth Rock, so we don't actually take any damage on this turn. And then Sandaconda is here, and our Pokemon just aren't doing enough damage. I mean, Dracovish is nearly 10 levels lower than Raihan's monsters, so it's to be expected. Now his Pokemon target Rillaboom, paralysing us and inflicting damage, and I guess because he's the greater threat, the AI is targeting him. However, before long, I'm thinking Dracovish is going to go down pretty soon as well. His HP is getting very low. So I use Draco Meteor, which I taught back in Surchester. It's a powerful move, but it lowers our special attack after we use it. And Dracovish's special attack is pretty bad to begin with. So it makes for a good last stand style attack. And we actually do knock out the Sandaconda, which is awesome. And what's even better is that the XP causes Centiskorch to level up, who learns Crunch instead of Bite. That's going to be a nice damage boost for us there. Now meanwhile, Rillaboom does big damage with Drum Beating, but the Gigalith survives, and just as I predicted, it's the end of the road for Dracovish. He actually does survive the attack from the Gigalith, but the damage from the Sandstorm is enough to put him away. And now comes Raihan's Duraludon. Again, I may be butchering the name. Now this thing is a Steel Dragon type. Now that's a lethal type combo, and it's one that we really don't have much to counter with. So I've sent out Pikachu. I'm hoping to Thunder Wave this big boy, but Raihan has other ideas, and Pikachu is one shot into oblivion. I was kind of hoping it would target Rillaboom, that's what I was counting on, but it's not to be. Now the good news about Rillaboom surviving is that he can take out the Gigalith. The battle is now 2-on-1 in our favour. I send out Lampert next. Yeah, we finally evolved Litwick. I'm really just using her to stall Duraludon's G-Max turns, and she does this quite effectively by getting one shot. Nice. so then Toxtricity is out next. I'm wanting to save Centiskorch for when the G-Max is over. Now Rillaboom does finally go down, but Toxtricity is able to do decent damage despite the opponent being resistant to electric attacks. And now with Duraludon returning to normal size, we send out Centiskorch and we Dynamax ourselves. The plan really is just to brute force Raihan's final Pokemon, as we can't really use any type effectiveness against it. Now I'm worried it'll do too much damage if we try to set up coils, so we're just going to go for the Dynamax attack, and we finish Duraludon off pretty easily. And this was honestly my favourite battle of the run so far. Our whole team had a part to play, and it took everything we had to take this guy down. So now that we have 8 gym badges in hand, we need to travel to this Arctic wasteland on our way to the Champions Cup. And here we run into a situation that I honestly expected to encounter a lot sooner, but this is the first time it's happened. We have 2 trainers blocking our path, but we can choose which one of the 2 we want to battle. There's some weird taxi guy and a postman. Now we only have to go through one of them to move ahead, so in this scenario we're going to use the J-Rose rule of battling the opponent with the least number of Pokemon, as that feels most in line with the spirit of the run. Now that's what we would do, except that both these guys have an equal number of Pokemon with 2 each. So I decided to just battle the postman, because why not? Now there's a few more mandatory trainers in this area as we make our way up the hill, and one of them is this TV crew, or I guess 2 of them are this TV crew who you have to double battle. It takes about half a dozen attempts to get through them, and it's really just because I'm making bad plays again. I was trying to use Dracovish in battle to get him more XP, as he's just too underleveled right now, but because he's underleveled, he keeps getting knocked out. So eventually I stop being stubborn, and I decide keeping him out of the battle and getting some XP is better than him getting knocked out and earning a lot less XP. So when I start the battle with Pikachu and Rillaboom, we actually win quite easily. I made this fight much harder than it needed to be. Once we arrive at Winden, I realise we can buy vitamins at the Pokemon Center, so I'm kind of wishing I hadn't spent all that money on cosmetics right about now. But whatever, can't change the past. I do end up buying some Carbos to max out Dracovish's and Lampert's speed stats. This will hopefully help them outspeed their opponents, even if they're at lower levels. I also teach Rillaboom Drain Punch via TM. It does the same damage as Brick Break, and it's a fighting move as well, but it will heal some of Rillaboom's HP back, which should be nice. I also teach Pikachu Draining Kiss, just so we have a Fairy type move. It's not a very good move, but having that type coverage might be useful, I don't know. And I also evolve Lampert into Chandelure using a Dusk Stone that I picked up all the way back in Stoneside. So now battle number 67, and it's the final showdown with Marnie. Now just like last time, she hits us with Torment, limiting our ability to set up coils with Centiskorch. But despite having 3 chances to attack us, her Liepard only uses non-damaging moves. So that's a choice, I guess. Maybe not a good one, but it is a choice. So we take that thing out pretty easily, but the real issue occurs when her Scrafty both lowers our speed with Scary Face and confuses us with Swagger. Now thankfully we get good confusion luck and we can take the Scrafty down while only sustaining minimal damage ourselves. And then her Toxicroak then poisons us with Toxic, which is really bad. That poison damage is going to increase every turn. I'm also expecting all of her Pokemon are going to outspeed us because of that Scary Face. So things aren't looking too good for our little Centiskorch, but we are still able to wipe out the Toxicroak in a single hit. So then Morpeko is out next, who also perishes from a single attack. And by this stage, we've snapped out of confusion without hitting ourselves a single time. That was really lucky. And then her final Pokemon is Grimmsnarl, which she Dynamaxes. And this thing looks like an Attack on Titan monster. I wonder if that's deliberate. Anyway, I don't even bother Dynamaxing and we still win. Even through the poison, even through the G-Max attacks, even through the Scary Face. Centiskorch is just too good. So Marnie is done. Now straight after that we have battle number 68 with Hop, and since I'm expecting him to start with Dubwool, I begin with Chandelure. I think Zen Headbutt is the only move his Dubwool has that can actually hit us. Meanwhile, we can inflict decent damage by getting the burn and using fire spin. And this back and forth takes quite a long time, especially because Hop heals the double, but eventually we are able to finish it off. Now unfortunately, Chandelure is low on HP after all those headbutts, and Hop Snorlax is able to take us down. So then we send out Rillaboom, and this is honestly nuts. Rillaboom just hands out beatdown after beatdown, and Drain Punch comes in really useful here. It restores his HP and allows him to stay in the battle. We're getting back all the damage that we take, and Hop really can't do anything to us. Even when he Dynamaxes Inteleon and hits us with a super effective ice attack, we just tank the hit and then land a one-shot. Rillaboom is amazing. As far as grass Pokemon go, this guy is one of the best I've ever used. That was just a massacre. Then we have to leave the tournament to deal with some shenanigans from Rose's goons, and we have to battle Eric here 3 different times. I think that's the same number of battles we had with Marnie, which seems kind of absurd. Now, he only uses Steel Pokemon, which we've got some good counters for with our Fire Pokemon, so he's really easy. This just adds an extra 3 tedious battles to our count. Then to get into Rose's tower, we have to battle another goon who isn't Eric. Then once we're in the tower and going up the elevator, we have 3 more double battles with Hop against more of these goons. That's 7 battles in a row against Rose goons. And none of these battles are difficult. They're just time consuming. So now that we're up to battle number 76, the count has jumped quite a bit, we're going up against Rose's right-hand woman, Oleana, or Oleana, one of those maybe. She starts with an ice Pokemon, so I decide to set up some coils, as I don't think she's going to be able to do too much damage to us. Now she keeps using Double Team, which I don't think we have to worry about since Coil raises our accuracy, so I just keep coiling to my heart's content. That's a weird sentence to say. Now soon the Frostlass does start attacking, but it's not doing a huge amount of damage, and we can take it out. However, her next Pokemon is Melodic, and this thing does do huge damage with Surf. So Centiskorch doesn't last too long, and all those coils turned out to be pretty pointless it seems. Now Melodic is really bulky, and this one knows Recover, which is always a horrible combination to have to deal with. But Toxtricity is doing really good damage despite how beefy Melodic is, and for some reason it goes for Safeguard instead of Recover, and that allows us to take it out quite easily. Now Toxtricity has learned Boom Burst by now, a move only its amped up version can get, so we're doing really good damage, and Toxtricity actually eliminates 3 of Oleana's Pokemon. This leaves her with only 1, Garbodor. A literal pile of trash. Now it does Dynamax though, and Toxtricity sadly goes down. He put in some great work in this battle though. So I send out Chandelure, who is thankfully able to outspeed, and we connect with a Curse. This is going to take a quarter of Garbodor's health every turn, so as long as we can hold out long enough, it's impossible for us to lose this battle now. However, Chandelure then goes down, Pikachu's out next, he also goes down. But the good part is we've stalled out its Dynamax, so it's back to normal size, just in time for us to send in Rillaboom and Dynamax ourselves. And we actually finished the Garbodor before the Curse can, but it was still nice to have it as an insurance policy. So another pretty easy battle here. Rose's underlings really aren't proving much of a challenge for us. And then we find Leon and Rose just hanging out, like they're just standing there talking. That was anticlimactic. Alright, so with that out of the way, we can get back to the Champions Cup, which is promptly interrupted by Bede. They really don't want us to complete this tournament, do they? So he's developed Stockholm Syndrome from his kidnapper Opal, and he's now a Fairy-type trainer. Now before this battle, I did buy the Quick Claw from Stow-on-Side, and I gave it to Dracovish. This gives him a chance of attacking first, even if he's slower than the opponent, which he's probably gonna be given his level and his not amazing speed. So Bede begins with Mawile. I still don't know how to say that thing. It's a weird word to say. But anyway, it's an easy opponent for us to set up coils against. It can't really do that much to us, so we just coil a bunch of times, and then we sweep through Bede's entire team. And there's honestly not much else to say here. The days of us being challenged by this guy back in Galamine number 2 are long behind us. I mean, he wasn't that difficult in Galamine number 2 either, but he's even easier now. And then battle number 78 sees Best Waifu return to us in a rematch. So we begin with Pikachu, who quickly gets dismantled by her Golisopod, but he does get off the paralysis before he goes down, and that's all I needed him for. Pikachu has done his job here. Toxtricity is now able to outspeed, and I don't think that would have happened without the paralysis. And he lands the one shot, and that's that. See you later, Golisopod. Here, Center Scorch learns another new move in Fire Lash, which is better than Flame Wheel, so that should come in handy. Not in this particular battle against the Water-type Pokemon, of course, but later on. And Nessa's Barraskewda then makes super short work of Toxtricity, not looking good right now. And then we get some ridiculously good luck. Dracovich's Quick Claw activates twice in a row, so we attack first 2 times, and on the second time we get a flinch. Now Nessa does heal this weird fish thing, but we end up scoring a 3rd Quick Claw activation and we take it down. That was wild. However, our good luck then turns as we miss twice in a row with Draco Meteor. I believe this move is 90% accurate, so it's pretty miserable to miss twice in a row, but given how lucky we were with the Barraskewda, I'm not going to complain about it. And the really sad part is when we finally do connect with Draco Meteor, it does garbage damage anyway. Dracovich's special attack is so much worse than his physical attack. I would have been better off just using Bite this entire time. So with Dracovich gone, it's now time for Centiskorch. Now this may seem like a strange choice, but I want to save Rillaboom to be on full health for her Dreadnought, so we're going with Centiskorch for now. And she actually takes down the Seaking, which is really good, but the Pelipper is a different story. It uses Tailwind, and I'm not sure how this ability works exactly, whether it allows her to always go first, or if it just gives her Pokemon a speed boost. I don't really know, but either way, the end result is the same. She's attacking first against our Centiskorch, and we don't last long. We do actually hold on with 2 HP, and I thought we'd get to attack one last time, but we knock ourselves out in confusion. A very undignified end for Centiskorch in this one. So then Chandelure also gets confused from Water Pulse, which is again some really terrible luck. Things really come and go in this battle. Now she is able to get off a curse before she faints, and then we're just down to Rillaboom, so I guess we're not going to have full health for the Dreadnought, but we'll do the best we can. I decide to Dynamax to take out the Pelipper as quickly as possible. It's probably got a flying move that will be super effective against us, so we don't want this thing hanging around. And then the Dreadnought is out next, and I'm thinking we should be able to one-shot it just like last time. At least that's what I'm hoping. Now here, we get to attack first now, so I'm thinking Tailwind only works while Pelipper is in the battle, and once Pelipper's gone, Tailwind is gone too. As you can tell, I'm not really sure how this move works. But that's not really important. What is important is that our 4 times super effective Max Overgrowth does indeed one-shot the Dreadnought, just like I hoped. So it was a really close battle here, but we pulled out the victory, and that's what counts. Before the next battle, I spend a good chunk of our watts on buying the TR for Liquidation, and I teach it to Dracovich. This gives us a powerful Water-type move, which can make use of Dracovich's excellent physical attack stat, instead of having to rely on its horrible special attack stat. And given I've poured so many resources into our Fish Dragon, we might as well begin battle number 79 with Dracovich. We're going against Alistair again in this one, and this is the second attempt that you're watching. The first time Dusknoir used Disable when I used Bite, which was really annoying. So here I start with Liquidation, trying to bait the Disable on a less useful move, but it's not to be. The Dusknoir just isn't using Disable. It keeps spamming Rock Tomb instead, which is much worse. Now eventually it does go for the Disable, and it thankfully disables Liquidation. Or maybe not thankfully, given the next Pokemon is Chandelure, who would also be weak to water. Liquidation may have been a useful move here, but it actually doesn't matter. Dracovich goes down after one more attack anyway. So then I call out Pikachu, who's able to get off a light screen. The idea here is that light screen will protect us from Chandelua's special attacks while we set up some coils with Centiskorch. And the plan is working really well until Chandelure scores a critical hit and inflicts a ridiculous amount of damage on us. And after that, Centiskorch goes down with one more attack, and so it's time for attempt number 3. I don't think I can get through this battle without Centiskorch. So on this attempt, we get a flinch with Bite, so Dracovish is still on pretty good health when the Chandelure arrives. We then tank a Shadow Ball and inflict a big damage with Liquidation. And even better, on the next turn, our Quick Claw activates and we finish the Chandelure off. So Dracovish has made it to Alistair's 3rd Pokemon before he finally goes down. That's a really good effort, he did great work here. So then I repeat the Light Screen plus Coil setup strat, this time against the Polteageist. I love this thing's name and I love its design, it's such a cool Pokemon. Now fortunately, we don't get any critical hits this time, and then Centiskorch can begin the offense. And you can probably guess what happens when Centiskorch begins the offense. Yeah, she sweeps through the rest of Alistair's team. This battle is over. Now it was tough because Alistair has so many special attackers that it was difficult to set up our coils, but once we've got them set up, we can one-shot all his Pokemon, and it's not too challenging. Even the Gigantamax Gengar goes down with a single crunch. So nice try, Alistair, but not good enough. And now battle number 80 is none other than a rematch with Raihan. But this time it's a singles battle against him instead of a doubles battle, and this encounter is so much easier than when we faced him at the gym. Now this is partly because he starts off with a fire Pokemon, making it really easy to set up Centiskorch coils. Fire Pokemon can't do very much to Centiskorch, so we're not in too much danger. I did also replace the leftovers with a berry to cure sleep. His Torkoal does no yawn, which can put us to sleep, but it takes 2 turns to do so. So we can recover from the first yawn straight away, and then he'll use it again, and by the time we fall asleep properly, we've buffed our defense with enough coils that we can withstand being asleep for a few turns. We're not going to take that much damage. And once we get rid of the Torkoal, we can see the other thing that makes Raihan really easy, and it's just that his gimmick in this battle is really bad. See, each Pokemon he sends out will use its first turn creating a different weather effect. Like the Torkoal makes it sunny, but his next Pokemon, Gudra, will set up a rain dance. He would be so much harder to beat if all his Pokemon benefited from just the one weather effect and he just kept applying it as needed. But here, every time he sends out a monster, it wastes its first turn, negating the previous Pokemon's weather effect to start up a new one. And that one turn is all we need to KO all of his Pokemon with our buffed attack stat. So yeah, really bad strategy on Raihan here. I guess they were trying to make it a fun gimmick battle, but I kinda just felt sorry for him. Even his Duraludon, his ultimate Pokemon, is a one-shot. He was honestly easier than Nessa and Alistair. So he went from one of the hardest gym leaders to the easiest. Wow. And now for the final showdown, the champion himself, Leon, as battle number 81. Nah, just kidding, we got some more story nonsense to do. Rose is apparently blowing up the world for some reason, and of course, us being a child, we're the only one who can stop him. So first we get tetanus from grabbing this old shield artifact, then it's off to Hammerlock to face off against Rose. And like his goons from earlier, he uses Steel-type Pokemon, so it's really easy for us to set up some coils, and then just roast his entire team with Centiskorch. It's pretty anticlimactic for the game's main villain, but then again, Giovanni was pretty easy to beat in the original games, so maybe this is actually appropriate that he's so weak. But anyway, with him out of the way, now we have to fight Eternatus, which is apparently the source of Pokemon's ability to Dynamax. And I really like this. It actually makes sense why Pokemon can Dynamax in the Galar region and not in any of the previous regions that we've played in. Those regions didn't have an Eternatus. Now we do have to beat Eternatus twice here, once in a regular one-on-one battle, and then once again as a raid battle. And the one-on-one battle is actually quite difficult. I start off with Rillaboom, who lowers its defense with Screech. I then try for a paralysis with Pikachu, but we get one shot before we can do anything. And the same thing happens to Toxtricity. But for some reason, this big dragon boy goes for cross poison on Chandelure, who easily survives the hit. If it had gone for a more powerful attack, we would have been one shot again. But because we survived, we're able to land a curse, and now, once again, as long as we can stall out the clock, we are going to win this battle. And Centiskorch can survive a Dynamax Cannon, and Eternatus is down. Or at least round 1 is over, I guess is a more accurate thing to say. So then it Dynamaxes, and we have to battle it again, and I'm counting this second fight as a separate battle. The Eternatus has a new health bar, and our Pokemon's HP has been restored too, so I think it's fair to count this as a separate encounter. So we're going to increase our battle counter once again. Now the first few turns we can't do anything, as in our moves have literally no effect on Eternatus, but then the box art legendaries, Zacian and Zamazenta, join the fray, and now that they're here, we can actually damage Eternatus. And this is actually a really fun battle. I use Screech to lower the defense of this giant monstrosity, as the legendaries are going to do far more damage than any of my Pokemon, so a support role is the best way to go here. And the legendaries do indeed do big damage, and soon enough Eternatus is at 0 HP. And once that happens, we actually have to capture it, as in I don't think you can choose not to catch it. So with battles number 82 and 83 over, we've secured our final wild Pokemon. And what a Pokemon it is! A level 60 bulky poison and dragon type legendary. Sorry Pikachu, you're off the team. And now with all of that out of the way, we can have the final battle against Leon for real this time. And battle number 84 will see us close this game out, assuming we can win. And Leon actually has special dialogue if you have Eternatus in your party, which I never knew, so that's pretty cool. Now, because Eternatus has a lot of HP, I actually give the leftovers to him. Leftovers restore a fraction of your total HP every turn, so the more HP that we have, the more benefit the leftovers will provide. Meanwhile, I've given Centiskorch the Lax Incense. And so with all that being said, let's do it. Let's take on the champion. Leon starts with Aegislash. Since this thing is Steel type, we begin with Centiskorch. I don't bother setting up any coils, you'll see why in a second. Instead I just attack with Fire Lash and we defeat Aegislash. Hey, that rhymes. But then comes out Seismitoad, and this thing can do enormous damage to Centiskorch and take her out very easily, so there was no point setting up the coils. Centiskorch won't be around long enough to benefit from them. However, Rillaboom is the perfect counter and Seismitoad goes down in one hit. Then Leon has Cinderace, and I love how he uses the third starter in his team. Like, we haven't seen this thing since it was a level 5 Score Bunny, and now it's level 64. Needless to say, as we have a type disadvantage, Rillaboom is disposed of pretty quickly. So let's go with Dracovish, and he does get outsped, which is to be expected, but despite this, and despite Leon using a full restore, he's actually able to defeat the Cinderace. I mean, we do have the type advantage, so that definitely helped. However, we are left with very little HP. Now we level up and we teach Super Fang. I did test this, and Super Fang will do more damage to Leon's next Pokemon than Ice Fang will, at least at full health. Plus, Ice Fang is a TM, so we can reteach it later if we want to. Not that there will be a later, since this is the final battle, I guess. But oh well, in theory, we could if we wanted to. So Leon's Haxorus goes for Outrage. I was hoping the Quick Claw would trigger here and we get one more attack before Dracovish went down, but it's not to be. So I try for a Curse with Chandelure, but it gets one shot before we can do anything. The good news is that Haxorus is now confused from Outrage. I send out Toxtricity, and we desperately need this thing to hit itself in confusion. But that's not what it does. Instead, it hits a 4-time super effective Earthquake, and Toxtricity is one shot into Unconsciousville. So now it's down to Eternatus versus 3 of Leon's Pokemon. And even better, it's here I realise we can't actually Dynamax Eternatus. I didn't know that. I would have used my Dynamax earlier on another Pokemon if I had known, but hey, we'll see how we go. We're still going to try and win. We use a super effective Dragon Pulse to one-shot Haxorus. That's good, it's now only 1 versus 2. So next Leon sends out Dragapult. Dragapult does outspeed and it hits us with a super effective Dragon Breath. However, that does less than half damage, while our attack is another one-shot, so now it's down to Gigantamax Charizard versus Eternatus. 1v1, how are we gonna go? We have Dynamax Cannon, which is a move that not only has great base damage, it does double damage to any Dynamaxed Pokemon. So if we can connect, I'm pretty sure we'll one-shot the Charizard. We either need to outspeed, or we need to be able to survive a hit from this gigantic dragon. And yes, we do outspeed. I really didn't expect that. I didn't think Eternatus was that fast. But either way, we win. Oh no, we don't win. Our attack is not a one-shot. And that was a critical hit as well. Okay, I really wasn't expecting that. So can we survive a max Rockfall? Yes, we can. We tank it easily. So with one more Dynamax Cannon, this battle and this entire run is over. We've defeated Leon and become the new Gala champion. Now this was the second attempt of this battle. On the first attempt I restarted the battle after the Dragapult paralysed Eternatus. In retrospect I may not have needed to, but I guess we'll never know. And there you have it. 84 battles is the minimum number required to defeat Pokemon Shield. Now for comparison's sake, in Red and Blue the number was 68, so only 16 more battles in this game. I honestly thought the number would be higher, but there you go. And this was a really fun challenge. It's the first one I've done in a modern day Pokemon game, and I really enjoyed it. Now I know there is post-game stuff, and there's the DLCs as well, but for this video I really just wanted to focus on the base game so that we could compare it to Generation 1. If you'd like to see a sequel to this video where we take on the post-game and the DLC, leave a like on this video and leave a comment letting me know. I'm definitely up for doing this again if people want to see it. But for now, that'll do from me, so I hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.
Growing up, parents got me a guitar. Said you could do anything, kid, you could go far. You could be the president, fireman, race cars. The sky's the limit, kid, so shoot for the stars. So I strummed that guitar every day. Found a passion for music, never went away. I joined a couple bands and played a few shows. Tried to impress the girl in the front row. But soon enough, everything starts to change. As you grow up, nobody treats you the same. They try to take your future and make it real safe. You could be a doctor, accountant, or something sane. But yo, whatever happened to the sky was the limit. I fell in love with music, never thought it was a gimmick. I worked so hard on every tune and every single lyric. My whole identity depended on being artistic. Now you wanna strip that away.